carrying on discussing a presentation for Disabled Autistics Matter at DAM yesterday, at the Autism Partnership Board the other day. So DAM says that we need to have quotas to ensure that disabled people are proportionally represented, and that around 80% of such roles should go to those who are unemployed. Because obviously, you know, the majority of autistic people are unemployed, yet those people are just never consulted, hardly ever, you know, or involved in the main campaigns around autism. They always go to the most able, privileged minority, which is highly unfair, and it should, by definition, go to those who are the most excluded by default, because they're the ones who already, you know, essentially, it's just not fair, is it? They're autistic, get most disabled, and yet they never get a look in when it comes to anything to do with autism. How unfair is that? So this is obviously skewing things massively. So maybe quotas. Only studying the most able or even self-diagnosed ruins the data. It artificially suggests improved outcomes. Grouping all autistic people together is meaningless, as the lives, needs and brain is so different from each other. And then you know, Melanie Sykes, people like Packham, they're the public face of autism, so that's what, you know, is portrayed in the media, which is completely, you know, inaccurate in terms of how autism is for the majority of people. And this obviously affects the self-esteem of disabled who do not see themselves represented, and it also causes the public to lack understanding and compassion for the needs of disabled autistics. And then also the presentation talked about strength stereotyping. This rhetoric, strength stereotyping, is often promoted by advocates of the neurodiversity movement. I'll come on to strength stereotyping in a minute, but the rhetoric promoted by advocates of the neurodiversity movement is an existential threat to those with disabling autism, because denying autism is a disability or a deficit threatens the willingness of authorities to fund support and benefits and other things. And this is a threat, an existential threat to the well-being of those with disabling autism, for whom autism is not just a quirky difference, but because that's the way autism is portrayed in the media, and because of strength stereotyping, this is now affecting how autism is seen. You can no longer say you're autistic and for everyone to know that that's a serious disability. You have to endlessly justify yourself to make it clear that you're not like Melanie Sykes, and it shouldn't be the case. So, yeah, a threat to well-being. In an ideal society, this wouldn't be an issue, but unfortunately we don't live in an ideal society, do we? And also it's a hindrance to medical research as well, because they often, neurodiversity movement is often heavily against certain research, because they don't like treatments and things like that, and that's denying a choice of those more disabled autism, some of whom, you know, might actually benefit from certain interventions, and it should be it should be up to the individual's choice. But this choice is being taken away because of a neurodiversity movement advocacy against certain types of research. So the NDM benefits the least affected. And then, crucially, the presentation stresses that we support the original social model. The original social model is that disabled people are a normal part of any society. Society is designed for able people, therefore disabled deserve adjustments to be able to access and participate as much as possible. The NDM interpretation, however, is completely different. They say disability is a social construct. Impairments are solely the result of a lack of societal adjustments. But disabilities cannot be theorised away, because many disabilities just cannot be adjusted for. People will always be disabled, no matter what society they live in. NDM, the neurodiversity movement, has captured organisations and is being treated as fact, not ideology. Their promotion of strength stereotyping to encourage employment, for example, being organised, logical, super focused, etc., affects the self-esteem of people, of autistics who don't have those particular skills, and also, of course, affects the understanding of the general public, because, you know, they are less understanding of autistics who don't have those special compensatory abilities. And this strength stereotyping is used to justify autistics as valuable, but Dan says that we are valuable no matter what. We are valuable no matter what, whether or not we have strength stereotypes, whether or not we have these supposed strengths, or not. We're valuable. Disabled people matter. Disabled people are valuable no matter what. We don't have to justify our existence. We don't have to prove to society that we're worthy or valuable or anything like that. We're valuable no matter what. We're valuable as human beings. End of. So again, so DAM action plan. We will produce informational materials. About the harms done by the neurodiversity movement, pressure authorities to be impartial regarding neurodiversity movement versus more biological paradigms, and also we would like to have a Zoom social group for people affected by the neurodiversity movement and for more disabled autistics, because it can be very alienating attending certain autism groups when all the autistics there are like in really good employment and in relationships, etc. Never to see people like you is really alienating. At the self-advocacy group I attend, there are several other people there like me, so I actually like that group the most because it feels more balanced. But another group I attend, which actually I've stopped attending now because it's too alienating, I was literally the only person there, like out of work and everything, because everyone else was either was in good work or in a relationship and had at least one of those kind of normal adulting conventional lives, and it made me feel like really, I don't know, it's just alienating, isn't it? So that's important. So we're setting up a website, and we also want to ally ourselves with learning disabled organisations as well, because although some of our needs are different, we also share. They're also affected by the neurodiversity paradigm as well, to some extent. Although obviously those with learning like more obvious presentations of autism tend to get more support and recognition anyway, just because like it's clearly obvious they're disabled, whereas it's more the ones with invisible disabilities who can be most vulnerable by the neurodiversity paradigm, because people expect us to be like Melanie Sykes or whatever. But at the same time, this wholesale erasure of disability, and that is what's happening in society, does affect obviously other groups as well, those with autism, with like associated learning disabilities and other things. It affects us. It affects them and it affects us. So that's why we maybe want to form some alliances with these other groups as well. I think that's a good idea. That'll make us stronger as well, stronger together. So that was the presentation. As I say, I went through it really fast, and obviously I didn't go through all of it. There's lots more, by the way, that was covered, because I've only got limited time. All credit goes to the person who put this together, by the way. I want to say all credit goes to her. Absolutely amazing presentation, but I just wanted to share it with you, share some of it with you. Obviously she did a far better job than I've done when she did the presentation. I've just rabbited through it really fast, and I've skipped lots of it as well. But it's really, really good. And like I was saying as well, I guess it will interest you as well. It did get a good response at the APB, but interestingly, some of the people there called it divisive. They said some divisive language has been used, which is interesting. They said that the erasure of disability was very divisive. When we said that disability has been erased, they said that was a divisive statement. And we said, well, it's not divisive because it's a fact, it's happening. Disability is being erased. That is what's happening. Disability is being erased, and there's cuts to services as a consequence. That is what's happening. We see it on the ground. Cuts to benefits, cuts to social care. This is all because disability is being erased. People don't want to talk about it. People don't care about. This is happening. It shows how little value disabled people have in society. Whereas if you're not in work, if you're not in a conventional employment or whatever, you're seen as less worthy. If you have like a so-called special strength or something that can compensate for it, then people are likely to be more understanding. But if you do not have any strengths, so-called strengths, obviously everyone's got strengths, but if you don't have any, of these so-called super abilities that autistic people are supposed to have, then you're seen as like a failure, and your humanity is completely, what's the word for it? Well, you're dehumanised, aren't you? It's happening. But when we mentioned it, it was called divisive. Obviously, we counted that. I suppose it's not that surprising. It just proves ideological capture, really. NDM has captured everything. But interestingly enough, no one ever calls the neurodiversity movement divisive. They're extremely divisive. They cancel people. They bully people. There's this mob on social media that bullies people, that cancels people who criticise their ideology. So it's about time that the disabled actually spoke out, and that's what we were doing. So thank you for watching.